Hey guys, welcome back to The Readers. I hope you are having an amazing day. Let's get right into the stories. The first one is an entitled people story. I've been living in my suburban home for almost 12 years now. It's a nice neighborhood with decent people. Well, except for one particular neighbor who I'll call William. Not his real name, but fitting. From the day William moved in next door about 5 years ago, he's been nothing but trouble. Always complaining about something. My lawn being a quarter-inch too tall, my trash cans being visible from the street for more than 24 hours, or my dog barking once at a squirrel. You know the type. My two sons, aged 10 and 12, love playing football in our backyard. We have a decent-sized yard with plenty of space for them to toss the ball around. I've always encouraged them to be active and play outside rather than sitting in front of screens all day. Our backyard is fenced, but it's not particularly tall, maybe about 5 feet high. One Saturday afternoon last summer, the boys were playing in the backyard while I was inside preparing lunch. I heard a commotion outside, William yelling at the top of his lungs. I rushed out to find him standing in our yard, red-faced and holding my son's football like it was radioactive waste. "Your kids threw this ball into my yard and broke my window!" he screamed, spittle flying from his mouth. "This is the last straw! I'm going to make you pay for this!" I looked over at my sons, who both looked terrified. My older boy spoke up. "Dad, we were just playing catch. The ball slipped out of my hands when I was throwing it to Jake. I didn't mean to throw it over the fence." I turned back to William, trying to keep my cool. "I'm sorry about that. If there's any damage, of course I'll pay for it. Can I come over and take a look?" "No need," he snapped. "I've already taken pictures for my lawyer. You'll be hearing from them soon." With that, he threw the football hard at my feet and stormed off. I picked up the ball and comforted my sons, telling them accidents happen and not to worry too much about angry Mr. William. I figured he was just blowing off steam. Maybe he'd calm down and we could resolve this like adults. I planned to go over later that day with an offer to pay for any damage. But before I could do that, I got a certified letter. William was suing me for $25,000. The letter claimed the football had broken an irreplaceable antique stained glass window that was allegedly worth $15,000 plus $10,000 for emotional distress and diminished enjoyment of his property. I was stunned. $25,000 for a football accident? It seemed completely outrageous. I immediately called my homeowner's insurance, who told me they would cover property damage but not the emotional distress claims, and that I'd be responsible for the deductible. They also mentioned that if I had evidence contradicting his claims, I should gather it right away. That's when I remembered something. Our security cameras. About a year earlier, I'd installed security cameras around our property after a series of break-ins in the neighborhood. One of those cameras had a clear view of our backyard and the fence line between our properties. I pulled up the footage from that day and watched it carefully. What I saw made my blood boil. The football had indeed gone over the fence, but it landed on William's lawn, nowhere near his house, let alone any window. The footage clearly showed William picking up the ball from his grass, walking into his house with it, then coming back out a few minutes later and marching over to my yard with the ball in hand. He had fabricated the entire story. I immediately called a lawyer of my own. She reviewed the footage and told me we had a solid defense against his lawsuit, plus potential for a countersuit for filing a fraudulent claim. She advised me to gather any other evidence of William's behavior patterns and wait for the court date. Over the next few weeks, William acted even more insufferable, making snide comments whenever he saw me and telling other neighbors about how I was going to pay big time for the damage my uncontrolled children had caused. Finally, our court date arrived. William showed up with what looked like an expensive lawyer, wearing a neck brace that I'd never seen before. He must have added neck injury to his list of complaints. When it was his turn to present his case, William spun a dramatic tale about how my delinquent children regularly terrorized the neighborhood with their dangerous activities. He claimed the football had shattered his grandmother's priceless stained glass window, which had been in his family for generations. He even brought photos of a broken window and presented receipts from an antique dealer valuing similar windows at $15,000. His lawyer argued that I had been negligent in supervising my children and that this incident was just the latest in a pattern of disrespect for neighbors' property. William even dabbed at his eyes with a handkerchief when describing the emotional trauma of losing such a precious family heirloom. When it was our turn, my lawyer calmly asked if the court would review some evidence. She played the security footage on a laptop connected to a projector for everyone to see. The footage clearly showed the football landing harmlessly on William's lawn, William picking it up and taking it inside, William returning outside with no sign of distress, William walking to my yard with the ball to confront us. The courtroom was silent. William's face went from red to white in seconds. My lawyer then presented Statements from 3 other neighbors describing William's history of making exaggerated complaints. Photos of William's house showing no stained glass windows were visible from the exterior. A report from a home inspector who had examined William's house just 3 months prior when he was refinancing his mortgage, which noted no stained glass or antique windows present. The judge wasn't happy. He dismissed William's case immediately and asked both of us to approach the bench. He sternly warned William about making false claims and wasting the court's time. He also suggested that if I wanted to pursue a countersuit for legal expenses and filing a fraudulent claim, I had grounds to do so. I decided to file that countersuit. 2 months later, we were back in court and I was awarded $7,500, covering all my legal expenses plus damages for the stress and time his fraudulent lawsuit had caused me. The best part? William was ordered to take a good neighbor course as part of the judgment, a 6-week class about property boundaries, dispute resolution, and community standards. After the case was settled, William became surprisingly quiet. No more complaints about my lawn or trash cans. He even put his house up for sale about 3 months later, though I don't know if that was related to our court case or not. The lesson I learned from all this? Document everything, invest in security cameras, and don't let bullies push you around even if they live next door and have expensive lawyers. My sons still play football in the backyard, but now they're a bit more careful about their throws. Not because they're worried about breaking windows, but because they don't want to lose another football to a neighbor's yard. I bought them a new one after the case was settled. It was the least I could do after their old one became such important evidence. And whenever neighbors ask me for advice about home security, I always tell them, cameras aren't just for catching burglars. Sometimes they catch neighbors in lies that could cost you $25,000. Best investment I ever made. The next one is pro-revenge story. This story is a bit of malicious compliance with a lot of ongoing revenge, so I chose to post it here. First, the regular warning for all you perfectionists. On mobile, English is not my first language. Long story, no TL, die yar. Go have fun with someone else. Second, this story involves legal issues, so names and identifying details were changed. And now for the fun part. This story happened about 2 years ago, and some of it, as you will read in the end, is still ongoing. Probably will be for a long time. It starts with Dr. A, who is a principal, because that's what she is. Dr. A started as a special needs caretaker, studied through the years while working, and earned a doctorate in special education. After 20 years of experience in this field, she was approached by the council of a medium-sized city to open and run a new special needs school. "We need someone with your expertise and dedication," the council members told her during the interview. "Our community desperately needs a school like this." She accepted the offer, and after 4 years, she had built up a school with 150 students. For a special education school, that's a huge number. Such schools need way more staff than regular schools, not just teachers but also other caretakers, and the job isn't always clean and easy, so naturally Dr. A is always looking to hire qualified people. Then comes Zoe. Zoe had just finished her college degree in education consulting, graduating top of her class. Her professor served on Dr. A's school board and recommended her with glowing praise. "You won't find anyone better qualified," the professor assured Dr. A. "She's brilliant, innovative, and exactly what your school needs." Zoe was basically hired before she even submitted her resume. She's married to James, who finished his law studies in the top 5 of his class, and was doing his internship at a prestigious law firm, awaiting his license to practice law. Their future looked bright and promising. All they had to do was not mess up on their path to a comfortable, wealthy life. Dr. A welcomed Zoe to work at the school and informed her she would start on August 20th, about a week before the school year begins, as the staff needs to prepare the school for opening day. "I'm a consultant," Zoe protested indignantly. "I didn't spend years getting my degree to do menial labor like mopping floors." Dr. A was irritated by this attitude, but since Zoe came so highly recommended as the best in her field, she just smiled and replied calmly, "All staff begins work on August 20th. Your staff too, so please be here on that date." "This is ridiculous," Zoe muttered under her breath, but she had no choice but to comply. That pre-opening week became legendary among the staff, while teachers, nurses, and other staff members worked together tirelessly to get the school ready, painting walls, setting up equipment, and handling various tasks. Zoe isolated herself in her office, fixated on her phone all day. "Has anyone seen Zoe help with anything?" one teacher whispered to another while moving furniture. "Yeah, she's helped herself to the office with the best view," came the bitter response. Time moved on, and the school opened on schedule. Things fell into their regular routine, but Zoe was causing more and more problems. She refused to complete standard reports about her activities, missed meetings with staff and parents, and generally behaved like she was above it all. "Zoe, we need to discuss your documentation," Dr. A would say during their frequent meetings. "I'm a consultant. My methods are different," Zoe would reply dismissively. "All this paperwork just gets in the way of my process." Eventually, Dr. A approached the professor who had recommended Zoe, requesting her to mentor Zoe daily and teach her how to function in a real school environment, skills she apparently hadn't learned in college. "I don't understand," the professor said during one of their meetings. "Zoe, you were so promising in class. What's happening?" "What's happening is that nobody here understands modern educational consulting," Zoe snapped back. But even that intervention didn't help. The staff's hatred for Zoe grew, and her work quality deteriorated weekly. Dr. A held weekly meetings with Zoe and the professor to discuss her performance and suggest improvements. Meanwhile, important reports remained unfiled, and the quality of care for the children suffered. The situation reached a breaking point when a parent filed a formal complaint about their child's poor treatment. The board became aware of the issues, and a meeting was scheduled with the board, Dr. A, and Zoe. The professor tried to counsel Zoe beforehand. "Listen, Zoe, this is serious. Just show up, be professional, and have your paperwork in order. We can get through this." But Zoe, true to form, was a no-show. No call, no message. She simply vanished. Not just for that day, but for the following week as well. Without Zoe present, the board could only hear Dr. A's side, but they already knew most of it. The meeting was postponed until Zoe would show up, which only made her situation worse. Dr. A and the professor tried reaching Zoe repeatedly, but all calls went straight to voicemail. "Zoe, this is Dr. A. We're very concerned. Nobody has heard from you in over a week. Please contact us immediately. Finance is considering suspending your pay." Finally, Zoe called back. "I've been sick," she claimed. "I'll return in 2 days." "Thank goodness," Dr. A said. "We'll have a meeting first thing when you return. Please bring your doctor's note." The morning of Zoe's return arrived. Dr. A and the professor waited in the office, but no Zoe. 2 hours passed. Finally, she strolled in casually, as if nothing was wrong. "Sorry I'm late," she said, not sounding sorry at all. "Traffic was terrible." 10 minutes into the meeting, Zoe burst into tears. "This is all too much pressure," she sobbed. "Everyone's against me here." They paused the meeting to let her compose herself. When they reconvened, Zoe announced, "I'm still not feeling well. I need to go home." The professor spoke up firmly. "As a board member, I must inform you. While your job is secure during illness, you haven't accrued any sick days or vacation time yet. This will be unpaid leave." Zoe's eyes narrowed. "We'll see about that," she said ominously, gathering her things and storming out. 2 more weeks passed with Zoe absent and her position vacant. Dr. A and other staff scrambled to cover her responsibilities, but the gap was becoming increasingly obvious. Finally, Dr. A called Zoe again. "I'm checking in to see how you're feeling and when you plan to return." "I can't handle the pressure of this toxic workplace," Zoe replied. "I want to quit." Dr. A was stunned. Quitting mid-year could destroy Zoe's career prospects, and finding a new consultant during the school year would be nearly impossible. "Let's not be hasty," Dr. A said carefully. "Take the time you need to recover, and we can discuss this when you're feeling better." But Zoe never returned. After 2 more weeks of silence, James called the school. "Why hasn't my wife been paid?" he demanded. "Mr. James, as we explained to Zoe, she has no accumulated paid leave," the administrative assistant explained. "This is unacceptable," he shouted. "I'll be looking into our legal options." "Are you threatening legal action against a special needs school?" the assistant asked incredulously. "You'll be hearing from me," he replied before hanging up. The bridge was well and truly burned. Dr. A began searching for a replacement, but the options were limited. She finally convinced a retired consultant to return temporarily to save the school year. "I can't officially hire you yet," Dr. A explained to the retired consultant. "Zoe is technically still employed here." Board members started calling Zoe directly since she wouldn't respond to Dr. A. "Zoe, please come back or submit your resignation so we can move forward," one board member pleaded. "I'll come back if you pay me for all my sick leave," Zoe demanded. "That's not possible, and you know it," the board member replied. The situation grew increasingly chaotic. Parents began hearing rumors, and the school's atmosphere suffered. Then James called again, this time speaking to the city's legal department. "My client intends to sue for unpaid wages," he declared pompously. The city lawyer responded dryly, "Your wife can't sue while she's either sick or employed. She needs to choose one." The very next day, Zoe appeared at school with a resignation letter citing mental and health issues caused by the toxic environment as her reason for leaving. Once Zoe's resignation became official, parents who had been hearing whispers wanted answers. In a parent group chat, someone finally asked Dr. A directly what had happened. "Due to her stated mental health issues, Zoe has chosen to resign," Dr. A replied simply, sticking to the facts. James attempted to sue the city, but during mediation, the mediator reviewed the evidence and pulled him aside. "Listen, you really don't want to pursue this," the mediator warned. "You have no case." James withdrew the suit, and for a brief time, things quieted down. Then, 3 months later, an email from Zoe landed in Dr. A's inbox. "It has come to my attention that you have been spreading false information about my mental health," the email read. "I have screenshots of your statements in the parent chat. You will issue a public apology and clarify that my resignation was due to professional disputes or face legal consequences." Dr. A sat back in her chair, astounded by the audacity. She had Zoe's own resignation letter citing mental health issues. "Can you believe this?" she asked her assistant, showing her the email. Following protocol, Dr. A forwarded the email to the school board, requesting guidance. The board's response was immediate and panicked. "Just apologize and make this go away," they insisted during an emergency meeting. "But everything I said was documented fact," Dr. A protested. "We won't cover any legal expenses for this matter," the board warned. "This is becoming a personal issue." "Personal?" Dr. A responded incredulously. "This directly involves the school." Realizing her job was now at risk, Dr. A returned to the parent forum. "I'm dealing with some legal challenges and could use some professional advice. Does anyone have expertise in this area?" A parent who was a lawyer responded privately, "Tell me what's going on. No charge." After reviewing the situation, the lawyer shook his head. "They have no case, but they're going to sue anyway. Nothing you say will stop them. Let them dig their own grave." Sure enough, a week later, a letter arrived on James's law firm letterhead, demanding a public apology. "I can't believe he's this stupid," the lawyer muttered, examining the letter. "Using firm letterhead without authorization. That's a career-ending move." The lawyer had an idea. He contacted an old college friend who had become a junior partner at James's firm. "Hey, have you heard about this special education school case?" he asked his friend. "What special education school case?" the friend replied, puzzled. "Exactly what I thought," the lawyer smiled. "Mind doing some digging?" The next day, his friend called back. "No lawyer here authorized this. He used our letterhead without permission. The partners are livid. This could be a PR nightmare." Together, they crafted a plan. The lawyer met with Dr. A to explain it. "I don't like being manipulative," Dr. A hesitated. "Sometimes you fight fire with fire," the lawyer replied. "Trust me." He drafted a settlement agreement and called James. "Your client agrees to never sue the school again, and Dr. A will make a public apology. The apology can be in any format as long as it's searchable on Google and linked from the school website. Deal?" "That's all we wanted in the first place," James replied smugly. Within hours, Zoe and James had signed the agreement. The lawyer arrived at Dr. A's office with video equipment and a carefully worded script. "Ready to make some creative truth-telling?" he asked. Dr. A's video apology was masterful. She detailed her own impressive credentials, then mentioned Zoe's lack of experience and recommendations. She apologized if anyone misunderstood her comments about Zoe's mental health, while carefully highlighting that Zoe herself had cited these issues in her resignation letter. "I'm sorry if Zoe's feelings were hurt when people learned the truth about her departure," Dr. A concluded diplomatically. The video went up on the school's YouTube channel, alongside all the legal documentation, including James's unauthorized threatening letter. "There's your public apology," they wrote to James. Case closed. A month later, James was summoned to the partner's office. "Care to explain this?" they asked, showing him the school's webpage. I was just trying to help my wife," he stammered. "By committing fraud using our firm's letterhead?" a senior partner asked coldly. "Clear out your desk." To avoid a public scandal, the firm sent a letter to the school requesting removal of James's threatening letter. The school complied, but replaced it with the firm's admission of James's fraud. "They really think this makes it better?" the lawyer chuckled, posting the new document. James's career imploded. Every job interview ended the same way. "So why did you leave your previous firm?" they'd ask. "It wasn't a good fit," he'd reply nervously. "Interesting. We'll be in touch." They never were. Meanwhile, Zoe's job search wasn't going any better. Her professor refused to write recommendations. "You want me to recommend you after what you did?" she asked incredulously. "I don't think so." Every interview included awkward questions about her year at Dr. A's school. "Let me check your references," one principal said, reaching for the phone. "Wait," Zoe protested. "There were some legal issues." "Legal issues?" The principal raised an eyebrow, already typing the school's website into his browser. Zoe eventually found work as a secretary at a small office. "Finally, a fresh start," she told James over dinner. 3 months later, her manager got curious and Googled her name. "Zoe, we need to talk," he said the next morning. After a minor mistake with filing, she was let go. 5 years have passed. James now works at a small firm known for representing petty criminals. "At least I'm still practicing law," he tells himself after losing another case. Zoe can't hold a job for more than 6 months. Her latest attempt ended when a co-worker found the video. "Hey, aren't you the consultant who sued that special needs school?" 2 weeks later, she was fired for poor performance. Recently, James sent another threatening letter. "Remove all mentions of our names and that video immediately." The lawyer's response was brief. "Care to discuss damages payments?" James didn't reply. Dr. A eventually made the video private on YouTube, but the legal documents remained posted. "How long will you keep them up?" a staff member asked recently. "Until they learn their lesson," Dr. A replied. "Some battles aren't worth winning if you lose the war." The next one is a malicious compliance story. To make an already long story as short as possible, some background. I am a manager for a North American railroad, and a lot of our work involves different crafts of employees. Different crafts have different unions and different work rules. The managers of the other crafts and I work together well to get done what we need to get done, especially when some of the work needs to get done at night. The track guys can have a crew assigned to nights, while the signal guys can't. Even better, the signal guys who work overnight have to be let go after 12 hours. And if it's now their regular shift because they came in last night, they get paid the rest of the day to go home and sleep. Track guys have all 3 shifts. But we only have a day shift and an evening shift, but no night shift, because the big hats don't want to hire enough people to do it. Now, the company has decided that paying guys to go home 2 hours early on a Thursday, come in and work overtime all night at 10 p.m. and go home at 10 a.m., getting another 4 hours pay to go home and sleep is the ending of all that is good and pure in the universe, and will eventually lead to the collapse of capitalism, the nation, and indeed the universe itself. So they decide that the second shift guys have to stay 4 extra hours, and the first shift guys have to come in 4 hours early. I point out that I can't force employees to work overtime unless it's an emergency, and the union isn't likely to agree that we want to do this at night so we don't affect traffic is an emergency. Not all employees are qualified on the same things. Since they took half of my trucks away 5 years ago, because savings, I don't have enough vehicles for an entire second crew to show up at 2 a.m. and relieve the guys working in the field so they can go home. The guys currently working will have to stop work, pack up the tools, drive back to the office, let the smaller relief crew load up, drive back out to the work site, do the starting paperwork and briefings, and begin the work. And most importantly, that while we aren't there, the track guys can't work, because we have to keep taking things off of the rail so the track guys can do their work and then put them back when the guys are done so we can run the trains in the morning. All of it falls on deaf ears because the freckle-faced college kid, who opens every conversation with "I have an MBA, damn it," who has somehow gotten to a position where he's in charge of the estimates, wants to complain about those 24 hours a night. So, after having gone on the meeting record for all of it, I get out of the kid's way. I decide that if my boss isn't going to have my back, I'm not going to stop this inevitable disaster. After all, I've only been doing this for 27 years, but he graduated with a 3.6 GPA from UTEP, so he must know better. So the first night, the job grinds to a halt like clockwork at 1 a.m. The second crew shows up at about 4:15, and they get to work. The track folks pack it in, because by the time anything gets dismantled, there won't be enough time to get anything done and put it all back together to start moving trains by 7. Second night, the shift change was a little smoother, so they got out there at 3:45. Managed to get a little work done before packing up. Third and fourth night, it rained really hard, so the drive back to the shop and out to the job site took extra time. No work done after the new crew showed up at 4:30. Bright and early Monday morning, we show up at our morning meeting to find that the track guys got about 30% of the work done that they'd planned for the week, and at this pace would finish a 6-week job more than 15 weeks behind. And over budget by more than 300%, Mr. MBA proceeds to launch into his carefully rehearsed speech about key metrics, percent spent versus percent complete, and all sorts of other nonsense. Then he decides to start in on me. since I obviously conspired and colluded with my employees to egregiously erode progress for an entire week. I held up the meeting minutes from the previous week, told him in no uncertain terms that he had asked, in fact demanded that we have a full shift change in the middle of the track department's work. I looked across the table at him and asked him if he wanted to revise that position. Completely unwilling to let this lowly engineer tell him what to do, he said no, and I was supposed to somehow magically make the shift change faster. Next 3 weeks were the same story. They've now been out there for a month and have managed to accomplish just shy of a week and a half of work. Mr. MBA shows up on the site one night, just in time to watch my night guys walk off, watch the track guys shut down the machines and gather outside to smoke, hang out, and generally carouse, because they know they now have 3 hours to screw off and be paid for it. My guys had called me when Mr. MBA showed up, so I get out of bed and get to the job site just in time to see this guy in his shiny, fresh from the package safety gear screaming at the top of his lungs to the guys to get back in their equipment and get the back to work. They all refuse because they all know that they can't work without us there. Not that they care all that much about our equipment, but because they know Mr. MBA has been throwing a little too much weight around, and nothing makes union employees stick together better or faster than putting the screws to a manager who really needs it. I walk up during a profanity-laced tirade and cut right in and say, well, Mr. MBA, I'm sure you're not suggesting that these qualified employees violate Rule 26, which clearly states that they shall not, under any circumstances, run that equipment through a switch that the signal department hasn't checked, would you? That would be a serious violation and could get him a 30-day suspension without pay. And if you were to suggest that he do that, you wouldn't have a union card in your pocket, and he would have 30 witnesses that saw you give him that directive. So you wouldn't be suggesting that, would you? He turned 3 shades of purple, stomped back to his little white company sedan, and drove away. He held on to his asinine mid-shift shift change for another 2 weeks until he couldn't hide the massive production delays from his boss anymore, and suddenly he wasn't in charge of the estimates anymore. The total cost of his little venture? Just over $940,000 over the course of 6 weeks. But he did manage to save $700 a night on those off hours that he didn't have to pay for. Anyway, thank you for watching.